Hello, my name is Nikita Rissanen, also known as Niki Grindhouse on my social medias, and I'm in the panel garden.
Let's explore creative minds at the panel garden. See what blooms, see what we find at the panel garden. How makes cartoons from old and new, nerdy paints, writers, letters, and art, picking all their minds apart, with evil web as adorable as it gets.
Yay! Right, that was perfect. That was perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so I guess we could start with, gosh, Niki, you're all over the place creatively.
I'm all over the place, yes.
Yeah, you've
that's
done
true.
comics, you've done film, you've done so much interesting material. Where do we even start when talking about your accomplishments?
That's a really good question. I think creatively, I started out as a fiction writer and nothing like visual. So I think that might be a place to start. I wrote a book when I was 24 and had just moved back from Japan after 2 years. It was a science fiction novel, and I got a publishing contract after I was still in university. So during my first year in university, I finished writing this book and I got a publishing deal. And then I was editing it for 2 years, and then it came out in 2012. And it's called, in Swedish, Evighetens syster, or Eternity Sister. So that's where I sort of began my professional career as a creative, I guess. And then after that, I was supposed to get my bachelor's degree, but I decided to just go full creative, and I got a sort of working stipend, I guess it's called, from the Swedish Writers Association. And I decided that I was going to leave the town I was living in. It was Malmö, which is in the southern part of Sweden, and I wanted to live somewhere I hadn't lived before. So I decided to move up north in Sweden, and I left in the summer of 2013. And I didn't know anybody, so I was just moving up there, trying to create some kind of space for me. And I started talking to this film director whose name is Victor Lindgren. And he has a production company called Bauta Film. And I got this office space in the same office that they had. And we decided to collaborate. He read one of my short stories, and he told me over a sort of Danish sushi wine night that he wanted to marry my short story and try to make it into a movie adaptation. So that's how I started working on film. But then in the spring of 2014, I came out as trans and said I was going to begin my transition. And he wrote me a letter, actually, where he said that he thought that it could make for an interesting film just to follow me around. So it was, in the beginning, this project was supposed to be like a documentary, just documenting my transition from beginning to, whatever end. But I didn't want to do it at first. And then the summer came, and in Sweden, because especially in the north of Sweden, there isn't like a real clinic for transgender people. So in the summer, nothing happened, and I got a lot of anxiety. And when the fall came, I was in a very bad place mentally. And I decided that maybe this movie could be helpful for someone. So we started shooting when I first met my psychiatrist, and so on. And then I didn't feel comfortable being the subject of a documentary, because that's not how I like to tell stories. I don't like to make things autobiographical. So we decided to make it into a fiction instead. So I started writing a story about a little child who was sort of me, maybe, in a dystopian future landscape where they are like rounding up and killing off people who are not conforming and putting them into mass graves. And we were just writing on that script, and then we got sort of production money to keep developing the script. And we went to Berlin and were writing the script, and we had like a crisis where I was super mad at him. We were supposed to be like a creative duo, but he was still supposed to be the director. But he also said that he wanted to have credit as the screenwriter, even though I had written all of the script. And then we had a crisis, and I said I didn't want to do the movie if it was going to be like that. And he said, okay, so maybe we can put you on as the director as well. So now, instead of just having like me having half a credit, we are sharing it equally, sort of. And then in Sweden, when you are making a movie, you can like apply for money from the Swedish Film Foundation, and you get a consultant, and the consultant sort of lobbies your project. So there was this grant that we were up for, and we received it, and then we started to plan for the shooting of the movie. Everything went very fast. So this was in the 2016, and we began shooting in 2017. Oh my God, so many years. It feels like I wasted so many years only working on this movie. In the background, I wasn't writing anything by myself, because during my transition, like in the middle of it, it felt like I was shedding a skin, like an old skin of a dead brother that I had been living in for so long. And creatively, I had a hard time finding an expression for myself. And that's how I began to work more on my comic projects. And that's where I am today. But anyway, we were shooting the movie in 2017 and then working post-production until the summer of 2018. In 2018, it premiered on Swedish television. And this fall, it's been the movie that's called Nikita Forever has been traveling the world for a little bit. So it went to Cinema Queer México and was featured there, and also on Houston International LGBTQ Film Festival. I believe it was their 25th edition, and also their last. And then we are here. It feels like I felt like I was telling a whole biography. I don't know if everything was relevant or not.
So, what drives you creatively?
That's a very good question. I think things that get me going creatively are like reading things that gets me traveling to another kind of world. I mean, I read a lot of, well, both fiction and also comic. I don't know. Do you say comic fiction?
Sure.
Or do you?
Comic fiction would work. comics in general is
Yeah,
fine.
I think that comics in general, just reading things that make me go through that tunnel into like a speculative place. That when I get inspired, it gets me going, and also my dreams. Almost everything that I make come from something that I dreamt. And so usually when I dream something that gets stuck with me, it's like a seed that gets planted somewhere in my brain soil, and eventually it either blossoms or it doesn't, and it becomes like this weird garden, and I just pick the flowers and decide what's going to be a story or not. So my dreams and that reading things that are actually able to get me traveling somewhere else.
So, where would you say your characters find their voices?
I think for me, it depends on the characters. Like, I think, well, the one common denominator from a lot of my characters is trauma, and I guess that's like kind of, I'd say it's not unusual, I think, to have characters that have voices that come from some sort of trauma, but my characters usually have something, because I think that in a lot of my characters, the trauma is something that they're trying to escape from, and that's usually a starting point. Not that the story always starts there, or not that the trauma is always like the main focus of a story, but I believe that their voices often comes from some sort of trauma, um, or some sort of wound, and it doesn't always have to be like something extremely severe, just something that makes, because I think that when characters get a voice, I think it always has to become something that's not necessarily super unique, but unique in a way. And I think that being wounded or having some sort of trauma um, opens up your ability to reflect on the world around you. And for me, that's where a true voice comes from reflection.
How has your experience as a trans woman affected what you write and the stories you tell?
I think that I have, up until recently, I've been like avoiding writing things that touch on the trans subject. um, but I think that the way that it has affected me, and the way that I write stories, is that it had, because the first half of my life was almost like, I don't know, like being an actor in a play. And maybe that's the same thing for all people, but it's like, because when you grow up having someone inside yourself, something authentic that nobody is acknowledging, it makes you like more, um, what's the word I'm looking for? It makes you, um, it gives you like an ability to put yourself in other people's shoes. Like it's almost like an empathic ability, I guess, or like you're forced to grow this empathic ability because you have to understand other people so that you can um, portray yourself in a way that doesn't give away what you really are. And I think that, and it sounds so sad when I'm saying it, but that's also like a phase. I think it's a phase before you discover how to like deconstruct that shell that you've been acting inside of. But I think that it has made me like it makes me understand people's psychology better than I think other people do, actually.
There's a certain level of self-awareness, I think, that you get when you're expressing yourself as a trans person,
Hmm.
that, you just don't see anybody else doing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I love that. I love the word self-awareness. It's so funny because you can be self-aware, and other people around you are like can go half a life without being aware of you. And then when as it was when I came out as trans, people some people were shocked, some people were not shocked, some people couldn't understand why I hadn't said anything before. And it's like when you're walking around with that self-awareness, but fear is something that keeps you from, you know, cracking open yourself
Right.
like an egg.
Especially early on,
Yeah, especially early on. And for me, it was like, because uh, I decided before I started HRT, or before I like passed, whatever that means, to change my pronouns. And oh, you know how it is. It's like people, because I didn't pass, people always mistook me or whatever. And it's so weird when you're in the early phases of transition and you have cracked yourself open and you're all over the place, and you get so, and you can finally rage. I think that rage is a very good like motivation for things too.
Yeah.
The queer rage, especially the stories that I'm working on now, because I think I've been avoiding exploring queer rage because I didn't feel like I had collected my own, language around it. And I think that rage is something that works, it's sharpest when it's like well defined.
That's awesome.
Did I answer the question? I can't remember.
I
I'm
think you
just
did.
talking.
I
I'm
think you
just
did. I'm,
talking
I'm, I'm
here.
just intently listening because you're so much fun to talk to. So,
Oh, it's so much fun to talk to you. I've been looking forward to this so much.
you are absolutely charming, by the way. So,
Thank you.
let's see. Let me pull up my guest questions again because
Yes.
we are totally off script at this point. Not your fault.
I am very bad talking on script because I know that I can, when I start to ramble and a tiny little thought just pops up, and then all of a sudden that's the conversation.
Oh, totally. So, okay. So, one thing I did want to ask is just sort of across all the mediums of film and television and comics, one thing is sort of persistent through all of them, and that is that they're all sort of collaborative mediums. So I
Mm,
figure you sort of above um, even creating the script would know what a good collaboration looks like. Um, so I'll throw the question to you: what is a good collaboration, and how does it work?
yeah, it's like it's so, that's such a good question because right now I'm having a really good collaboration with, um, she's an actor called Saga Becker. And I have a deadline tomorrow. That's why I was a bit late, but for an adaptation of her first book. So I'm doing a couple of pages from a text that she has chosen that's going to be published in an anthology consisting just of trans creators and allies. Um, anyway, our collaboration works very well because we are able to not only, I don't think that it's necessary to have, common experiences, but you have to be able to talk about your experiences without being exploited by the person that you're collaborating with. When I was doing the movie, for instance, it was not that good of a collaboration because it felt like I was a pineapple. I was like something, I was an exotic fruit. And it was strange it was like the person I was collaborating with, the director, he sort of tried. I started noticing that we weren't speaking about the same thing when he tried to make adjustments to the script I have written by making it more outrageous, because that's how he saw transness. And like, whether or not, it doesn't have to be like about the specific subject, of course, but I think that talking about the story, like if you're collaborating with someone, you understand the story from different directions. I mean, from different perspectives. It's like the story always becomes a sculpture, and you always stand on different sides of it, watching it. And a good collaboration is being able to describe what a whole sculpture looks like from your like separate sides, and making that sculpture come together. A bad collaboration is just one person seeing the sculpture and the other person looking at maybe a detail of it. So it becomes like a body with a huge head and like tiny feet. I don't know, like something like that. That's what I think about good and bad collaborations.
How do you approach inclusion in your work?
In my work, I always, like when I come up with a story, because everybody has to realize that because we live in this kind of society where nothing that we come up with, no narrative, because everything is formed inside of a conformative like space. That's, it can be, it's white, it's patriarchal, it looks, and it's cis heterocentric. I come up with a story, and then I take a look at it, and then I take away the things that makes it look just like a reflection of what, the common, not the common, but the major narrative, societal narrative looks like. So I take away things that are too straight, too cis, too white, too male. And then I put something else in there. It's like performing, it's like almost like doing an autopsy. and creating a monster, but a good monster, of course.
There you go. All of our monsters should be good monsters, I think.
Yes, I think so too. They can be angry monsters, but they have to be good monsters.
I think a good monster can still be angry. It could be
true.
Righteous anger.
Yes, that's so true. Oh my God. I love righteous anger.
So earlier you were talking about how some of your characters find their voices through trauma.
Yeah.
But is there a particular emotional place that you enjoy creating from?
It's funny because I think that the place I enjoy creating from is like a recovering euphoria. That's how I would describe it. It's not the trauma. It's not like a traumatic place. I don't like creating from, the cliche about the depressed artist. I mean, of course I'm depressed, and I have my soul off to help me with that and stuff, but I don't enjoy creating from that place. I enjoy creating from the euphoria, the life confirming, the life affirming place where I'm recovering from the trauma of being like put into a mold and grinded up all my life. The rehab place. That's where I enjoy creating from.
That's almost like an image out of Pink Floyd's The Wall. That's what sort of hit me, was like the children being thrown into the meat grinder. And, that's oh boy, I'm losing my words now. Damn it. But that's very prescient. I think I think a lot of trans people feel that way.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that feeling, because it's not something that a lot of people get to know, or that place, and it's not a place where a lot of people have to recover from, or recover themselves from. It gives us like talents for free that other people don't have, like the ability or the talent to create other worlds, because that's how we have to survive.
And being sort of a shapeshifter,
Yeah,
blending
exactly.
into the background.
Yes, we're all trans werewolves.
Trans werewolves. I love it. That
Yes.
is awesome.
That was actually really good. I'm going to write it down.
I think that might be the title of the episode.
Yes.
So what's the coolest thing you've ever worked on?
The coolest thing I've ever worked on. It's so funny. It's something that never got published. And it was like a very gritty, pulpy book that I wrote after we had finished shooting the film in 2018. And I was like a total nervous wreck, and my body was like covered in eczema because I had been so anxious all the time we were shooting, and there were things about the shoot that didn't feel okay. But because to escape from that, I started making up a story during the shoot about this former assassin girl who worked for some sort of covert organization, and she tries to escape from it by creating a really, really normal life, and trying to get herself into what she considers being extremely normal relationships, and they all end in disaster. And she, in the story, she goes to the desert and hallucinates Kim Kardashian talking to her.
Oh, nice.
And they have like this weird existential conversation where she confesses all her sins. And then she sort of, Kim Kardashian turns into some sort of cannibalistic monster, and she discovers all these bones under the house. And then all of a sudden she has this sort of catharsis, and then she goes home. And that was like the coolest story that I have ever written, but nothing happened. I showed it to my editor at the publishing house, and she said that it was that the mystery genre doesn't suit you, which was very strange. And I don't know if I would call it like a mystery, but I really liked the hallucination of Kim Kardashian in the desert. It was, I love it still.
That sounds amazing. I would totally read that.
Wouldn't you? Oh my God. Maybe I would make that into a comic. That would be a really nice visual style.
Oh my God, you totally should. You need a good monster artist too. I know a couple of people. I do.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I know everybody.
Yeah, you do, don't you? You have to. I can't even imagine the web of your network.
It's fun. I've been really fortunate. I think I've gotten to talk to just mind-blowingly just amazing people. My childhood heroes. I had Gary Conway on the show. Yeah. I worshipped that guy at like 12 years old. Oh my God. You have no idea.
That's crazy. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by it?
Sometimes. Yeah. I do my best to keep sort of like a cool head and my
Yeah.
poker face, but sometimes I think, sometimes I lament that I'm really glad this isn't a live show.
Mm. Yeah, I get that. Oh my god. Like, I don't think I would. I don't know what I would even ask. You're so good with the questions. I'm so
Thank you.
impressed. And it's so fun because it's like there's not a lot of people who do interviewing that are very good at like having this active listening that makes you feel like they are listening, but it feels like you are really listening.
I am. I am.
That's really cool.
It's a ton of fun. I feel like interviewing is sort of a skill, you know.
Yeah, it is
It's a
totally.
muscle. You exercise it, you build it. Hopefully, you get better at it.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that you're amazing
Thank you.
already.
You are so charming. Oh my God. So, do you have a favorite kind of story to tell?
Um, I love my favorite stories are all horror stories. So horror stories in general, and it's always I love, and I actually love monster stories, but I think it's hard to find monster stories that are like, I don't know, that can engulf you and make you appreciate it. I like to write monster stories where you appreciate being eaten alive. That's what I like. I'm writing. I'm writing something right now, which it's getting very long, but it's like this is going to. I know this is going to be my new book, but it's sort of like a Scandinavian horror story about this woman who has gotten away from an abusive relationship, and in the relationship there was this man who had a son. She became sort of a surrogate mother for, and the boy dies, and then she escapes and moves back to her old family house, where she's living in her mother's house, and the mother's house is inside of this very Swedish forest, which is like big, tall pine trees and extremely dark. And she realizes that something is there with her, something that knows things about her that should be impossible to know. And she finds paintings that her mother has made, that depict things from her life, even though she hasn't talked to her mother in several years, and her mother has been dead for 3 years. And that's what I'm working on now. But those kind of stories, horror stories,
Nice.
the end.
What compels you to write horror stories?
This is very strange, but I like to get afraid. I think that's the reason that people watch horror movies or read horror stories, and I like to scare people. I mean, ever since I was little, I've loved to scare people. And when I was 10, I wrote these, I called them books, but they were like, I don't know, 30 pages something stories about evil dolls brutally murdering people. And I got to read them in front of my whole class. And so it became sort of a thing where I read those and people could tell me about the nightmares they had. It's weird because I like to scare people, but it's also because I think that when you're afraid, it's because you have created a fantastical place in your mind, and because it's important for me, I think that it might be important for other people too. And I think that horror fiction and horror stuff does that. Like, I really love Clive Barker. Clive Barker's fiction is grotesque and amazing, I think. And also Junji Ito. And that's something like the feelings of disgust and feelings of like fear. I don't know why, but I really like to create places where people are allowed to feel those things because they're very strong emotions. And from those strong emotions, I think that a lot of other things will grow. I think it comes back to the place I said where I write from, the recovery place, because after trauma, after fear, you go and recover. And sometimes I think that I write horror or like to write horror and scare people because people have to recover. And I think that's good for people. And I think that a lot of people shy away from that. And horror fiction is a really easy way to do that. You don't have to go through a life of trauma. You can just immerse yourself in it like a bath or like at the
Like a
mikvah
bath
or
of
something.
trauma.
What?
Like a bath of trauma.
Yes, like the mikvah of trauma, I think.
There you go. Does the act of creating media change the way you consume media as a fan?
Yeah, I think that sometimes when I'm creating a specific kind of story or something, and like it can be just a piece of art, I get sort of full with that content, so I consume something totally different, like rom-coms. I have periods where that's the only thing I can watch, like really lousy ones. And it's like I can, well, I don't think it's lousy, but I really like Kissing Jessica Stein. Have you seen that?
I
It's
haven't.
really, it's so good. It's
And I
so
love
good.
rom-coms. They're like, especially bad ones.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
I like bad rom-coms. And my other guilty pleasure is bad Lifetime movies.
Oh
I
my God.
love bad Lifetime movies. Oh my God, they're so much fun.
Oh, we have so little of that in Sweden. And it's like, it's hard here to find, all the American Lifetime movies. Sometimes they show them like late at night. And I have some sort of childhood memory where I thought that Melissa Joan Hart played in every one of those. But, but I might be mistaken.
She's been in quite a few. I signed up for the streaming service, so like I get to get my fix of like girl with amnesia movies or boyfriend isn't who you think he is movies. Ah, it
Oh
is
my
the
God,
best,
amazing.
the best.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. But I think that that's like what I have to. It feels like I have to consume that. It's like it feels like almost like having some sort of eating disorder.
They're so good though.
Yes, they are. It's so much fun because you don't you really don't have to. You don't have to like. I was just about to say you don't have to invest too much emotionally, but I invest a lot emotionally in those movies because I get really riled up when I watch them. But that's also so nice.
So do you want to do the active fan questions? That's where I ask you about the comic books that formed you as a person.
Oh, I have been so nervous for this. um, okay, we can do that. I've been trying because sometimes my brain just goes pop and nothing comes out. So if that happens, just be patient, okay?
Don't worry, I'll be there for you. I'll help you if your brain
Thank
comes
you.
out.
Thank you. You are my emotional support.
So, do you have a favorite single issue story or comic book title of all time?
Is it something? This is something that exists in reality?
Theoretically,
Um,
I mean, it doesn't have
I
to.
have, I have
I
this.
think I was vague enough with the question.
Yeah.
It could go either way.
Um, one, and I don't know where it comes from, but the butterfly samurai. I feel that's not like a genre that I consume a lot of, even though I want to read Wolf and Cub a lot. I've seen it on Humble Bundle, and when I lived in Japan, I have such regrets that I didn't buy it. But that's something. The Butterfly Samurai, and it sort of rhymes too. That's nice.
That is nice.
And I can feel it. I can feel it inside me. That would be like about this samurai who loves butterflies and has this sort of greenhouse where they go and just immerse themselves in the butterflies, like in the middle of as pauses between all of those violent things he has to perform. Or she. I think it will be a girl. The Butterfly Samurai.
When was the first time a comic book made you cry?
The first time a comic book made me cry, I think I can't have been. I think I must have been like maybe 11 or 12, and I remember that it was. I don't remember the title, but I remember it was Don Rosa. It was like a Donald Duck omnibus thing, because there was something very melancholy about it, but I can't really remember what happened. But I remember sort of a desert, and I remember feeling very sad.
Is there anybody working in the medium of comics that you would consider either the most underrated or most inspiring person?
Well, I like Charles Forsman. He wrote I'm Not Okay With It and The End of the Fucking World. I don't know if he's underrated, but I like...
It's a great choice.
He has that sort of unforgiven melancholy in his work that I really feel inspired by. Like, I know that there's some sort of critique against, especially maybe I'm Not Okay With It. Have you read the comic?
I haven't. I didn't know it was a comic.
Yeah. It's much more depressing. And I think the show is also really kind of depressing, and The End of the World is also, which I didn't know before, like a month ago or something, but he has written that as well. And The End of the Fucking World is also really, really good. But the style in those comics is like extremely naivistic, and it's like very simple, like Popeye-ish illustrations, and I really like that for the dark narratives that he's telling. But he's like both of those things. Maybe I'm not sure if he's underrated or not, but he inspires me because I like I'm Not Okay With It, or I'm Not Okay With This, I think it was called. The ending of it is really like TV suicide, and it feels like in the last 2 years, I've had 2 friends who have committed suicide, and it just feels when I read it, it felt nice to have someone just, make a character that ends like that, decides to end themselves because of their pain, because it felt like anchored in reality. That got too dark. It got too dark, Ava. Save me.
You're fine.
Thank you.
Don't worry. We still have, we're up against the end of the show, but
Oh, okay.
we're almost ready for the fun part. Are you with me?
Okay.
Awesome. So let's start with an easy one. What Ninja Turtle do you see yourself as?
My first impulse was to say Michelangelo, but I think Raffaello? Raphael?
Nice. Nice.
That's what I feel. Yeah. It's always been like that. I remember when I was little, because I first got acquainted with the Ninja Turtles. This is very strange because I remember watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I was little, and I always thought that Shredder was sexy. And I remember having that feeling that I was like, he's sexy.
He is, though.
Yeah.
He really is.
He really is. It's so weird.
Okay, so if you had a Batman-style utility belt, but it was made of things that were relevant to your life, what would be in it?
I think this neck massager scarf that I'm wearing right now,
Ooh,
and my
I want one.
office chair. And right now on my wall I have the Hebrew alphabet, which also would go there. My drawing stuff, and also all the manga I haven't read that I bought when I was in Japan last time. And something else. What am I forgetting? My cat.
That'll work.
That'll work. And maybe... Okay, I have a devil mask also that I would like to bring. That could be my Batman mask.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Even though it's made out of wood.
I don't think there's a materials criteria, though, so you're in good shape.
Okay, that's good. Also some eyeshadows. That's also something that would be very important.
Super important.
Yes.
And if it were me, I would add a contouring set to that, because I don't leave the house without it.
Yeah. Oh, yes. That's, of course, maybe I could contour myself with my eyeshadows.
There you go. So what inspires you?
That's the easiest thing. That's my dreams. My dreams have always been one of my main sources of inspiration. My dreams are like... Oh, it's so hard to explain. I solve so many things in my dreams, and if I'm feeling empty creatively, I just know I can fall asleep and dream something, and I will receive a gift of like the tiniest seed to a story, or a part to, or a body part I can put inside a new monster, or maybe on myself. I mean, you can never have too many arms or legs or noses.
What criteria do you consider when you're looking for a sidekick or a minion?
I think for a psychic, I would look for how many earrings or piercings they have in their left ear. If there's none, I would say no thank you. If there's more than 3, I would say, please help me. I need to find my lost suitcase
And that's sidekick, not psychic?
That was psychic. that was psychic. Okay, sidekick. Okay, for my sidekick, I would ask. Well, I would start speaking Japanese to them, and if they can answer me, they could be my sidekick.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
Heck yeah.
I would say, 日本語が話せますか？一番大好きな漫画はとか。
Right on.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Where do you find joy?
I find joy in, I think in several places. It used to be that I only found joy when I was creating. Before I had like a harder time to find joy when I was consuming things or like in relationships with other people. But I think that was before I like finished my transition and I felt like I could meet everybody as myself. So I find joy meeting people as me. That's where I find joy now. And also when I'm creating something.
Awesome.
Okay, and also with my fiancé.
That helps.
Yeah, it does.
Congratulations, you've just defeated Thanos. You now have in your possession the Infinity Gauntlet, which gives you the ability to alter any aspect of reality that you choose. What's the first thing you do with that?
I would... Oh my god. This will sound strange. The first thing that I thought of wasn't world peace or happiness for everyone. It was, I would grant everybody a nemesis.
Of all things.
Of all things. Why did that pop up? I don't know, but because it was the first thing that popped up, I'm gonna do it. And then I snapped.
Sweet. So what's next for the lovely and talented Niki?
Next for me is finishing my deadline till tomorrow, and I am also supposed to go to Stockholm for an interview. When, I'm not sure, but something that's upcoming for a job interview as a comic artist. I think that's the best way to put it.
Sure.
And if I get it, I will have like a proper monthly salary, which is something I am looking forward to very much. Freelancing is only fun up to a point.
It is.
So that's next for me, and also finishing off the first tiny chapter of The Tiny Island, which is a comic that I've been working on for 2 years maybe. But it has taken such a long time for me to feel that my own illustrations are good enough for the story, and now I think they are, sort of. So I have started inking the pages, and I'm soon finished with the first chapter, and that's something I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. So where can people find you online?
People can find me on Twitter. You find me under Niki Grindhouse as one word. That's Niki with 1K, and also the same under the same name at Instagram. And I also have a coffee, but under my real name, which is Nikita Rissanen. And my last name is Rissanen. And I also have a homepage, but I don't know if you will find me there. But I have one under my real name.com.
Awesome. And we're going to wrap in 3, 2, 1.
And now it's time to go. Wasn't that fun? The Panel Garden is a show about the things we love. It's produced and hosted by the adorable Eva Webb. Opening theme by Antonia Marquis and Tyler Scott. Closing theme by Mikey Flash of Speed Force Music. The credits are read by the awesome and talented Kat Bertano. That's me. And if you're feeling super generous, feel free to go to buymeacoffee.com/EvaIsAdorable. There, you can support what we do by chipping in as little as $1. Not financially able? That's okay. Shares on social media and reviews on your favorite podcast listening platforms help us a ton. And that's it, babies. That's all we got. Thank you for being awesome, valid, and perfectly gorgeous. We couldn't do this show without the love and support of the amazing people who listen. That's you. Join us next time for another death-defying adventure in cyberspace. Bye.